Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the Herschel Talkers presents the College Football Hour, presenting Big Sean. Sean, what do you have to say for yourself? Not much. And Trey, Baby Driver. See him in Baby Driver 2, Baby Got Back. I'm Angry Scott.
Yes, sir.
I was angry watching Ohio State because I don't want to play that Georgia defense. However, I'm happy with the victory.
Awesome.
Boys, how are we doing?
That's great. How are we doing today? I'm doing great. How are we doing? How's everybody going?
I'm going good.
Awesome. Jumping right into it. First, we want to say thanks again for Talking Dogs right here. All things Georgia football. Really appreciate them.
Go on, participate.
Yeah, participating and able to post.
Get you a membership.
Hey, everything Georgia football here. The coffee shop, commit to the G. They also have Talking Dog swag. So I want to shout out to them and join their membership. They're getting hundreds daily. So really appreciate them as a sponsorship and helping out as a partner. Jumping right into it.
Well, hey, Trey, can I say something real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
Talking about, you said, how's it going? I was going number 2 in my pants during most of the Ohio State Penn State game, but we can go ahead and we can get into that later.
Okay, we will.
And I'm sure
Well,
the Georgia
let's
fans.
go ahead and get into it because, Georgia pretty much steamrolled Florida on next week, and we'll talk about some of the issues with that. Let's get to that Ohio State Penn State game.
All right, hey, just want to say, hey, great win by Georgia, 34-7 beatdown. We've beaten them 3 out of 4 years now. Kirby Smart's 4-2, great win. We'll get
had a 9 since 2004.
Exactly. I think the overall total now is what, 54-40?
Us more, them less.
Exactly.
I mean, it doesn't matter beyond that.
And then what we really want to talk about, the hot take, want to go ahead, jump right in. Great article that Sean and everybody wants to know is great article from Saturdays Down South. Kirby Smart knows can't beat Alabama with Stetson Bennett yet. Here we are. Stetson Bennett didn't struggle last week. I think he's 10 of 19, 161 yards, 2 picks. Struggled a lot. The defense basically carried them. So no JT Daniels. I know a lot of people were surprised. So getting your thoughts here, Sean. We've clinched the SEC East. We've got some cupcake games or winnable games coming up. What do we need to do to beat Bama? Because that's what it's trending towards an SEC championship game.
You got to get JT Daniels ready to play, or if he's ready to play, you got to get Kirby Smart out of his own damn way, to be completely honest. I mean, this guy is the John Wick of coaches when it comes to quarterbacks. He body bags every single one that's got any talent. I mean, and he's got at this point, it's not even like a trend or an outlier. There is a consistent history of him always picking a safe quarterback over the long-term best option. And, I know in years past, the quarterback coaching hasn't necessarily been up to snuff. Mm-hmm. We supposedly revamped both the on-field staff and off-field staff with back in 2019,
all right,
which, you think would lead to better performances from our quarterbacks, but it's really just, it's not there. I mean, Stetson Bennett, give him all the credit in the world, but at the end of the day, he is what he is. And the thing is he's not a national championship winning quarterback. And, Georgia fans can sit there and huff and puff and cry and scream all they want. It's the honest to God truth. Yep. And if this Georgia team doesn't win one, it's because Kirby Smart was the coach.
Yeah, I agree. I was like, he'll, I think they all know he's a good quarterback and he's been there. It's great that we had the luxury of having him as a backup, which is great because he can beat the Auburns, the Floridas, Missouri coming up. But I don't think you're going to beat the elite offenses where we might need to score 30 or 40, the Ohio States, the Alabamas, the Oklahomas. And I think that's what everybody deep down really knows. So you got 4 games. And I think this week's going to be important. If maybe, Stetson Bennett might start, but I mean, the point spread on this game is like 38 or 39. You're going to put up points. I think Missouri's not going to have their starting quarterback. So, I mean, this could be, 49-7, 56-7. So I think to get JT Daniels some series in the second half would be great. Blow the rust off. Then you got Tennessee, which will be probably a little bit of a challenge in the first half, and we should pull away because we've got more dudes and more athletes. And then you got Charleston Southern, which is a school of the blind, Sisters of the Poor, and then Georgia Tech, who's pretty bad too. So you got 4 games, 4 weeks to get this going to have the best shot, because I think we all know deep down that JT Daniels is got the more upside.
I'll go ahead and say this even further. If Georgia doesn't win a national title this year, University should fire Kirby Smart or cut him, because there is no excuse going into December with how every game that Georgia's had this year has gone, that you don't have a quarterback other than Stetson Bennett that's ready to go. You literally could have played, Beck, Vandergrift, somebody else, and get them meaningful reps like we do at every other position other than the quarterback, so that, JT Daniels is essentially, irrelevant, or Stetson Bennett's kind of irrelevant come December 1 when that SEC title game comes around.
Right.
But it hasn't been done because quarterbacks scare the shit out of Kirby Smart. And the thing is he just, it's almost like he's dealing with like king cobras. And the thing is it's just, they're out there, doesn't really want to, mess with them more than he has to. And it's just, it's almost, to him, he kind of views it as this foregone conclusion that they're going to bite you.
Yeah.
So, he'd rather put it in the hands of this defense, but just, that's really not how the game goes. You know what I mean? Like, especially in this era, you are a moron with how relaxed defensive rules are if you're not taking every bit of advantage of them as a football coach.
Yeah, I agree.
And the problem is that, I blame the Georgia fan base just as much as anybody. And the thing is there's a reason why Georgia's basically wins a national title at a clip of once every 40 years. And it probably holds true for most of their other sports teams as well. It's because the fan base just puts up with it. Yeah. They look at every situation as it could always be worse, rather than, looking at it as an opportunity to get better. I mean, that's not how Ohio State views things. That's not how USC views things. It's not how Florida views things, or Alabama. And yeah, I mean, they've had some coaches that necessarily, haven't necessarily, panned out, but, at least they're swinging.
Yep.
Sean, I have good news for you.
Yeah.
Talking about to preview Ohio State's game coming up against Nebraska, I think Scott Frost is going to be available if you would like him as your coach. So if you just want to go ahead and flush your program down the fucking toilet, bring in old Scott Frost.
Hey, Scott, as an Ohio State fan, being honest, like, I know you said earlier you're probably scared of this Georgia defense. Do you fear this Georgia offense? I'm going to give you my feeling, my thoughts on the game. As you boys know, I never watch a game live because fuck commercials. But also on top of that, I'm always behind on everything. So there's another joke in there, but I'm gonna let that one out. I'm gonna leave that one out there. We try to expand the audience, anyways. But I was watching the Georgia-Florida game, and I was of course on DVR delay. I said, this might be a pretty good game. I mean, sure, Florida can't do anything but begin with, nor could Georgia's offense. And then turns out you don't need an offense if your defense can, put you at with a 20-yard line. Because Florida keeps on going and crapping their pants out there. That's what it was. What was it, like 2-3 minutes? I was like, oh wow, was it 3-0? And I'm like, this might be a pretty good game. And then as Florida defecated in their pants, with about 2-3 minutes left in that second quarter, I said, wow, we just have to watch them self-destruct. And then before you know, it's 24-0. And I'm like, I'm already a little bit behind this game. I don't think I'm going to have to watch the second half. So here's what I think of it. Outside view when I watch this Georgia team, the defense. I mean, I'm ready for this. I'm going to use your boy Kirby Smart's terminology. Got to be elite today. And I don't even fucking sound like, I'm sure I don't sound like him, but if it helps, I have a golf hat on right now. Okay. And when I say, got to be elite today.
You have like a visor on, Scott. You got to do the visor.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. Well, that's what it's a golf hat, but it is a visor. Does that help? So anyways, yeah, you got to be elite today. Well, your defense is elite. So that's the best thing Georgia football has right now. Yes, I would, if I was a Georgia fan, I'd have those same concerns offensively. The question is, though, who's really that other great team that's really going to push you offensively? We'll get into Ohio State here shortly, but Florida, as the expression goes, who was the coach? It was Dennis Green who said that when he was Arizona head coach, they are who we thought they were. Well, there's a reason that Florida is now 4-4. Isn't that what they are? Are they 4-4? Florida.
Yes,
I mean, they've. So, anyways, they are who we thought they were. That now we know why they're 4-4 because they've self-destructed. But I mean, Georgia, I didn't even watch the second half, so I can't tell you much about the second half. What was the final score of the game? 34-7. It's great to be in a position that you get your quote unquote learning moments in a 34-7 win. Because as an Ohio State fan, we've had some learning moments first in a loss, and we'll get into this Penn State game later in a close win. So, do I think that the defense is everything you could want to be and more, and the D line is unreal. The D line is the strength of the Georgia football team. I will say from quarterback, yeah, Sean, I'm going to say this, man. There's been some NFL teams. If you have just an unreal defense, you can go and have a quarterback that can do enough to win you a Super Bowl. Okay, but then you just have to have an unreal defense. But if you're waiting on that quarterback to go win you a championship, which is kind of what you need in 2021, right? Then I don't know as though
football. It's what you need in college football.
I don't know as though Stetson can be your guy. He can be your guy most of the time, but it's going to be very difficult to be the Alabamas of the world. I'm not even. I don't know about. I can't really say about anybody else right now who would be. And I'm just looking at them. We'll get into the college football rankings later, but Alabama would be my biggest concern. Yes, I'm an Ohio State guy, but I would not be overly concerned about Ohio State. We'll get into that. Cincinnati, I mean, if they don't fucking make the playoffs, you don't got to worry about shit, So, and Oregon, I mean, everybody else has holes. So it's really getting past Alabama and, then who else you're going to see. So, and also, Sean, just to touch on the great job that Kirby Smart does with quarterback, I just want to thank you once again for Justin Fields.
You're most
made
welcome.
The playoffs twice. He helped us make the playoffs twice and a championship game. I don't remember what happened in the championship game against Alabama last year because I stopped watching after we beat Clemson.
I will say this. We did give you Justin Fields. We're always salty, but I will say this. No Heisman, no title. Kirby Smart sleeps okay at night. But we appreciate you that we gave you.
But Trey, that's just that was just Kirby unintentionally, but
make it feel better.
Unintentionally, but directly playing Russian roulette with his own career. I mean, he's an idiot when it comes to quarterback. It's just the case.
I agree. All right, jump in. We'll touch on this real quick. And that was quick. So we got Missouri, 12 o'clock, 38-39 point spread. They're coming in banged up, 4-4. We should blow
Let's
the wheel.
go ahead and get to the point. We're going to win by a lot. We'd like to see.
What would you like to see?
JT Daniels play.
How much?
Get some meaningful reps. I think you at least want to. Well, that's not the problem, right? Nobody really knows how hurt he is, but you'd like to at least let him get some meaningful reps in there, maybe a quarter or so. I mean, it seems like the way his injuries goes, it's kind of a gradual thing where he's able to throw more and more and more.
Right.
Or even Carson Beck, let him get a quarter in.
I want to see Daniels. Beck's lost cause. He's packing up in the transfer portal.
I mean, there's no point in any of these games why Stetson really needs to play more than a couple series until you get to Atlanta.
Yeah. But anyway, so we want to see Stetson. I'm hoping for a half. I hope we jump up quick, 35-7, 35-0 halftime. Hopefully we can cover. I'm going to go 49-7. Missouri puts up over 24 points against all kind of teams. Barely beat Vanderbilt last week. We know what we did to Vanderbilt. So hopefully we see JT Daniels. That's what we're hoping. No injuries. Hopefully see some of the wideouts get back in there. Maybe Burton, Arian Smith, who's on a milk carton for 6 games with a shin contusion. Jeez. So hopefully we see them. All right, jumping right into it. Talk a little Scott.
Well, hey, I'm going to give you my take on it first, Trey. What the fuck?
Yeah, go ahead.
Don't you want an expert's opinion or what?
Go ahead, Georgia, Missouri.
Sir, I think Georgia win the game big.
Yep.
Now, that's not my complete analysis. I'm looking at the SEC East, and that is a fucking bag of garbage outside of Georgia.
Hey,
okay, Kentucky's.
We did clinch already.
Yeah, well, look, Kentucky 4-2. poser. Tennessee 2-3.
Yeah.
No, they're pretty much who we thought they were. Maybe better than what I thought they were. Georgia 2-4 in the league, 4-4 overall. Missouri, you're horrible.
that Georgia
South
you
Carolina,
said?
South Carolina, you suck. Vanderbilt, how are you still playing football?
Yeah. Academics.
So I will say this. Hey, Michigan might have been posers, and we'll find out. I don't know how real Ohio State is, for that matter, Michigan State. Time will tell. But right now, the Big Ten East is right there with the SEC West, and the second team in the SEC West is the Auburn Tigers. Mississippi State, Ole Miss, maybe you got your moments going for it on fourth down on every single possession.
Yeah.
And then you've got Aggies. Hey, you got your one big win. You're done. So right now, boys, I put the Big Ten East currently, right now, that could change, as the best division in college football.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean I want to play fucking Georgia. Doesn't mean that I'm ready for Ohio State to play Georgia. But here's what's going to happen in this game. Georgia is going to win big.
Mm-hmm. I like it. All right, Scott, jumping right into it. I was really interested in it. So we're in Savannah for Georgia with the guys weekend, and I was interested in this game because
What game is that?
The Ohio State Penn State. I mean, we talked about it at the bar. I might have been drinking a little bit. So Sean and I talked about it. I looked it up stats. All right, the Penn State had the number 6 defense, right? And I wanted to see what they could do against Ohio State. Ohio State coming in there, blowing the wheels. You guys have been scoring over 40 or 50 points. So this was an interesting game towards me. And I did see 33-24. It was a win against, decent Penn State.
Did you watch the game, Trey?
We watched when I briefly I watched it. I'll say that because I wasn't all there. If you know what I'm saying, I've been drinking all day, but I did watch some of it. Watch the highlights.
I watched it.
We watched
okay. It sounds like
break it down and give us your over 3. You watched it more breakdown than we did. Go ahead.
It sounds like, at least I was honest with you, I didn't watch the second half of the Georgia Florida game because I didn't fucking have to. Okay. Right. But it sounds like this is what it sounds like to you. You watched the beginning and then you probably took a beer nap in there somewhere, and then you woke up and you watched some highlights. It's fine. Just tell us the truth, Trey. Don't lie to me.
It was definitely a beer. It was like a 10:30 beer highlight or beer nap. Yeah, it was. Go ahead.
So here's what I'll tell you about this Ohio State Penn State game. After Penn State crapped their pants against Illinois in 9 overtimes, and Illinois, by the way, is garbage. I said, hey, we should roll them by 21, 28 points. It's not what happened. So we got a couple things going on. Did Penn State play better defensively? Yes. Did they say, we're not going to let you run the ball? And their D-line did a very good job. But that also concerned me more so with Ohio State. I mean, yes, Penn State, look, it's a rival game, not like Michigan, but this has been kind of one of our bigger rivalry games, even though we've won all of them except for one. And even the year we lost 2016, we still made the playoffs over Penn State. But beyond that, we've had like some 1-point victories these last couple of years. So that has been a bigger game, but it's a home game as well. So Penn State's defense played well, but even in this, it shouldn't fucking matter. If we were but we look like all-stars against Akron, Rutgers, Maryland, Indiana, because all those teams suck. So my concern from Ohio State standpoint is, okay, they're going to go ahead and stop the run, and even then, Trayvon Henderson, I think, still ran for like 153 yards. But if he had like one run that was 50 to 60 yards or something, so we kept on pounding away, but we couldn't do very much there. My concern is more so, now that Penn State is so good, yes, they got up for that game, but they had a scheme that concerns me more as an Ohio State fan down the road. Just because Georgia's defense is better. Georgia's D-line is better. So I have concerns that we were going to be able to run against them. So, and also their quarterback, this is Sean Clifford.
They threw it 52 times.
He had, I don't think he was hurt like he was the week before. I think he's doing a little bit better, but he played good as well. So, yeah, my concerns is, yes, Penn State got up for that game. They look better, than the week before. But it's more concerns that, hey, we look great against garbage, meaning Ohio State's offense. So when we play a good defense, I don't know what that means. Now, I'll also say during the course of a college football season, if you're going to beat the Alabamas of the world, if you're going to beat the Georgias of the world as an underdog, it's easier to catch them week to week. Here you go. You got whatever 12 game grind, 10 game, regular season, whatever. Okay, so you only have a week in between those. When you get to the playoffs, then you've got 3 weeks to scheme for one team. So almost certainly the better team is going to come out and win that game. So Georgia fans, you don't want to hear this, and you're probably not going to lose to Missouri. But if you did lose to Missouri, it's because you have 1 week to prepare and you didn't take them seriously. So I get all that stuff. It's just my concern is more we weren't able to do offensively what we have been able to do. And so, yes, we won 33-24, but we couldn't score in the red zone. We got some field goals. So those are my concerns overall from that game. Now, moving forward, should we beat Nebraska? Yes, we should beat Nebraska. Ohio State plays this upcoming weekend. We should beat Nebraska before Scott Frost gets fired. But, we're not going to be able to – the week after that, we got Purdue. Purdue's one of those teams that always plays Ohio State tough at home. And then they got Michigan State and Michigan. So we'll see.
Tough stretch
Michigan State,
last 2 games, tough.
Michigan State appears to be the real deal. Watching that game, I watched every minute of that Michigan State game. That was a great game. And Michigan, who knows? They might still probably be who we thought they were, which is not a compliment towards Michigan football. So, yeah, I mean, it's bigger. But yes, we won the game. We can learn some stuff even winning the game. That's great and everything. But yeah, it is really what are we going to do when we play a team against? Right now, my biggest concern, hey, Georgia, #1 team in the country, and also how are you gonna play against Alabama? I think if we played Oregon again, we would play them tougher, and we'll get our shot at Michigan State. So, what were your thoughts on the game there, Sean?
Well, it's interesting that you came out of the game concerned about your offense. To me, Penn State had a top 5 or 6 defense nationally going into the game. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So to me, the fact that you kind of stalled out on some drives, only put up quote unquote 33 points, to me, that's a bit of a sign of optimism, from a couple of standpoints. First of all, if you compare where CJ Stroud was at the beginning of the year to where he is today, and I think this Penn State defense, at least statistically, is tougher than that Oregon defense that, gave him so many problems. I think he played better. The other thing too is I get you're not necessarily running it 5, 6, 7 yards a clip all the time, but the explosive plays are big. That was really what made the difference for LSU when they won the national title was just, they weren't necessarily consistent at doing sustained drives. And even Clemson was able to stall them out a good bit, but where they kind of blew the doors open on Clemson was their explosive plays. So to me, you guys still had a lot of explosive plays. You still had the ability to just put a ball in a playmaker's hand and go 65, 70, 80 yards for 6. So you're dangerous pretty much every time you snap the ball. To me, the bigger concern for Ohio State in this game was defensively. I'll go ahead and say I think the defensive showing was rather underwhelming, especially when you consider the fact that Penn State, I think offensively is ranked 80th nationally or so. And, I think one thing that you're probably looking for, especially since that Oregon game is how do you get better or are you getting better defensively? And, to a Penn State team that's that offensively, and it's the first test you guys have had in a while, it's kind of like 24 is kind of a lot when you're ranked 80th, right? Especially with the athletes that Ohio State has.
They did stop the run, though, which is impressive.
It is, but I mean, that the game Penn State was pretty much passing most of the time, from what I remember. Is that not correct, Scott?
They threw it 52 times.
Sean, was that before you had passed out, or is that? I mean, how much do you remember the game between all the drinks that you had?
I actually watched the game. I actually watched the replay of the game on Sunday because I was smart enough to not try and do it Saturday night.
I hear you. But look at it this way. The defense did have a big man TD, and that's got to count for something. It counts for 7, but technically 6 points. But my other concern is that the fact that we couldn't get to them. Didn't matter if it was like 3rd and 17 or 3rd and 4. They converted a bunch of 3rd downs. So that is a concern for mine. I can also give you an objective view because I could be objective. Okay. And my objective is, and I watched that Georgia team, I'm not concerned because I see holes that everybody else has. and I still see Georgia as the number one team in America. You're just saying, as a Georgia fan, yeah, but we could play even better. We haven't played our best, no matter what the fuck Kirby Smart says about being elite and all that other garbage. Okay.
Right.
But now I have concerns about my own team, and I say, yeah, the offense is good, but how are we gonna look against Georgia? Okay. And the defense is better, but our defense is not as good as Georgia. But can we get to the point? Because I had my concerns last year, and then we went into that. I was like, well, we play like this way against Clemson. We're gonna get their doors blown off, which ironically we beat their asses down. I said, hey, great, maybe we can win that national title. Not so fast, my friends, in the word of Lee Corso. So when we come up against Alabama, but it's a lot easier when it's not your squad to be like, well, actually, hey, I didn't think it was too bad and everything. Well, I know it's still 33 points. We can learn in a loss, but we can learn in a win instead of a loss and a 9-point win. But we had to grind that game out. Now you have some games you're just going to have to grind out that you're not always going to go. If Florida hadn't crapped their pants in that, at the end of the second quarter, then you might have had to grind a game out. I don't know. Outside of those, I say those 3 touchdowns, but if you watch that game, Georgia, Florida, if you watch that game without those 3 touchdowns, it's closer, right? It's closer, but still, hey, Georgia's the better team. Doesn't matter. That's how the game went. Fact of the matter is, if it's not your squad, you can say, hey, well, these are the things they need to improve on. Well, that's all true, but I look at it too. When it's my team, I know the offense can play better. Or is this how they play when we come across even a halfway decent defense that isn't Georgia? And we can't move it like we were playing against air. And by air, I mean Rutgers.
Yeah.
Right. Those are the concerns. So I don't know. It's still, we always have to, that's the reason that I'm so critical of my squad. And of course you are of Georgia as well. It's because you know how good they can be and that they haven't gone there yet. They're going to have to play their best down the road, not only this season, but in the playoffs.
That's true.
I agree.
And speaking of the playoffs, I guess now's a pertinent time to talk about the initial college football playoff rankings, right, Trey?
That's correct. As of Tuesday night, first it came out, still early in the season, but I really thought this was these were interesting. Georgia 1, which is great. This Alabama 2, biased. We can talk about it. You got Michigan State 4, Michigan State 3, Oregon 4, Ohio State 5, Cincy 6, 7, 8, all the way down. What were your thoughts on this? I didn't agree with this. And then also, I just throw this out there. It's almost like they're trying to will them in, and could a 2-loss Alabama team get in, which I completely disagree with. But geez, I just didn't see number 2.
I have a lot of feelings about this, Trey. So let me go ahead and go first, because it's best to get the expert opinion out of the way.
Yeah, go ahead.
Which this time is ironically me. Anyways, so here's the thing: Georgia, number 1 team in the country, no doubt about it. Alabama has looked like the number 1 team, or number 2 team in the country, except for maybe 2 games, because they've had a couple moments that you're like, it's Alabama, but they lost to Texas A&M. They had that close game against Florida.
Right.
Who knows? I think that's having a loss that's too high to put them right now. Michigan State, hey, you just had a top 10 victory and against your rival, and Kenneth Walker III, I think is it. Wow. Should we right now? He may have just won the Heisman if it just based on that. Oregon, look, I'm a Ohio State guy. I don't have a problem with Oregon going in front of the games on the field have to count. Yeah. Ohio State 5, I really don't have a problem with 5, or if we were 6. I think because we still lost a game, and we've looked inconsistent at times. At Cincinnati, I think Cincinnati has a slap in the face, just an absolute slap in the face. And Indiana, they're 2 big games this year against Indiana, who's garbage this year, good last year, garbage this year, and against Notre Dame. I mean, it's really one of those. But here's the other thing you got to keep in mind: the reason they go and they do this is a television show. They want to get viewers. So if we go ahead and do this, well, this will generate a lot of conversation. We generate a lot of conversation, but is there a path for Cincinnati to get in? And they talked about this 12-team playoff, and we can get into that here later. I think it eventually will get to 12, but you can't go to 12 and be like, well, 12 was too many. Let's go back to 8. I said from the very beginning, when Ohio State got in that first year, 2014, there should have been 8. And now if you want to go and say it's 8 and it's the top ranked 4 conference champions, and then you have 4 at larges, that's fine. That's fine by me. but I think you have to have a path for Cincinnati to get in. Because here's the other thing: Cincinnati had a good year last year, and played, yes, Georgia, the number 1 team in the country this year, in a very close bowl game. Michigan, yeah, they're 7th, whatever. I mean, Oklahoma. Look,
I think
sorry,
that's
Oklahoma.
face.
You can't. Yeah, is it though? I mean, yes, because you're undefeated in slap in face, but once again, generate viewers. They looked horrible against Kansas. They've looked horrible a good portion of this year. So if I'm concerned about my offense, I just got to go watch an Oklahoma game, okay, and say, well, things could be worse. And then also their Alex Grinch defense, who used to be the coordinator at Ohio State. So, Wake Forest, I think Wake Forest is 9. Just be happy where you are. I don't know if there's a path for you to get in. Look, there's a lot of games to be played, so a lot of things can happen. I think in the initial rankings, Ohio State in 2014 was like the 13th seed or something like that, and then we ended up being the number 4th seed, and then and winning the whole thing. So I think though that outside of maybe if you go all the way down to the 12th seed, I think there's a path for everyone else 12 and below to get in. But that's where I think, so here's how it goes. The top 5: Cincinnati 6, Michigan 7, Oklahoma's 8, Wake Forest is 9, Notre Dame's 10, Oklahoma's 11, Baylor's 12. After Baylor, you got a 2-loss Auburn, you got a 2-loss Texas A&M, a 2-loss BYU. You have all 2 and 3-loss teams. So except for like San Diego State, which has 1 loss, doesn't fucking matter. So there's a path for everyone else. I still think it needs to be 8 teams. This is only week 1. A lot of football to be played, but we'll see what it all shakes out in the end.
What would be your 4, Scott, right now? Gun to your head if you had to pick. What's your 4?
If I had to pick right now, my 4 would be Georgia number 1. I can make an argument for Michigan State number 2, Oregon number 3, and Cincinnati number 4. Ohio State, I'm fine with 5. Or here's the thing: if you put Alabama at 5 and Ohio State at 6, I'd be fine with that because there's a lot of football we played. And I mean, maybe I would move Oklahoma up a little bit, but then it's just really because they're undefeated. It's also going to be difficult to leave an Oklahoma team, an undefeated Oklahoma team, out at the end of the year.
I agree. All right, Sean, what's your thoughts?
I think Scott hit the nail on the head. I think a lot of this is about TV ratings. To me, it's an insult that Alabama is top 4. I don't think they're top 4, like, regardless, even if the season finishes out. I mean, they've got, a lot of concerns. I mean, their defense, it's not much to write home about. Their offensive line is an absolute liability. I mean, they're 80th, I think, in sacks allowed. Which means they probably would have had more trouble against Penn State than you guys did, Scott, because you guys are actually, I think, 18th in terms of sacks allowed. So just, let that settle in. I mean, this isn't like the Alabama of years past. They're young. There's the talent's there, whether it pans out or whatever's remained to be seen. But yeah, I think a lot of this is just the rankings are based on resume. Alabama's been a Goliath for, over a decade now. So that's kind of why they're at where they're at. I think Oklahoma, they may be paying for the fact that, year in, year out, they get into the playoffs with, an absolute dumpster fire and a loss to somebody, and then they never look like they belong. That said, all Cincinnati's done is beat who they put in front of them. I think they should be allowed in the playoffs. I mean, it's just so arbitrary that you pick Notre Dame, unless it's really just about the money that they're going to generate. Which is, an at-large team. They're not conference affiliated, over them. I mean, Michigan State, I think it's perfectly appropriate. Oregon, okay. I mean, I guess I get it. I don't think they necessarily deserve it over Oklahoma, though, if we're just going to go by conference, or Cincinnati, though. I mean, Oregon's lost to Stanford. It's bad. Actually, you guys probably deserve to be over them, to be completely honest with you, Scott. At least you guys lost to a ranked team, top 10 at the time, right?
Yep.
That's true. I mean, that's the other thing. Here, my other thought on it is, it shouldn't be, well, here's your most talented, most potential team. Well, no, what happens on the field has to matter. The games have to matter. And do I want Ohio State to be in there? You're damn right I want them to be in there, but I want them to be in there because they earned it. I want them to be I want it to be like 2019. Hey, I think we're one of the best teams in the country. I wasn't so sure at times last year. I mean, that's great that we have this talented roster and a lot of potential, but then ultimately what you do on the field has to matter. And that's why I still go back to it still has to, hey, if you're mad at Greg Sankey and you're all butthurt about it, get over it. Okay. Um, at some point in time, the answer to all your questions is money, ESPN, and everyone. Speaking of which, the College Football Hour is happy to take your advertising dollars to promote your products right now. But also, it needs to go to. Do you see how I got that plug in? Do you guys notice? So, but it has to go to 8 teams. It has to go to 8 teams, and you tell me how that needs to be done. And then eventually it makes to 12 teams. If you just want to jump to 12, I'm fine with that. But then I don't know as though it needs to be expanded too much beyond 12. It's just one of those, you can't go 12 and be like, 12 too many, let's go back to 8. So I want to be surprised if they compromise in the middle, they do 8 teams. I would still just like it to be, the sooner the better. By the time they come with this next contract, the sooner the better. Because to your point, Sean, I don't think Alabama should be number 2 just based on, well, look at all this potential. Look what they've done in the past. You know, it's also, what have you done this year? That's what should matter the most. And Cincinnati, one of the reasons you said, well, hey, maybe this should be higher is because they had a good year last year. They had a good performance. They had a chance to beat Georgia in the bowl game last year, lost a close game. Well, then it should matter coming back in. Or otherwise, if this is the way it's going to be for the group of 5, where it just has to be complete, so then Georgia's got to beat Alabama, and the Big Ten's just got to cannibalize itself. So they all have 1 or 2 losses. And then Pac-12 just got to, be the Pac-12 just has to be the Pac-12 what it usually is and not be in the playoff. And all this other disaster has to happen for it to be like, well, okay, well, now we'll let you in. Well, then otherwise, have the Power 5 and have the group of 5 and be like, you got your own playoff, which look, man, with everybody that takes off that last game of the year now, with all the kids that are taking off and getting ready for the pros, there's another reason to expand the playoff. And for the handful of teams out there, be like, well, I think it's already too many games. Then take out some garbage game. We all have them. Take out some garbage game that you have. Hey, look, Georgia fans, you can take off some SEC East team, and nobody fucking noticed because it's a bunch of garbage this year. So in the SEC East, so that there's another way. If you want to go ahead and take away a game, that's another way to take away a game.
Mm-hmm.
Completely agree. I'll give you my 4 real quick. Didn't agree with Alabama at all. I could see them at 4 or 5. I just think it's of course, the history, Nick Saban. I just thought they were really favoring it and they're trying to push the SEC. But I kind of see Georgia. I can see that Michigan State too. Cincinnati. I know that's still a big win against Notre Dame. I know they haven't really played anybody else, and they struggle against like Army a couple of weeks ago and beat them by 7. They kind of rolled around with a bad Tulsa team, like 31-12. So things can be hard for them to get in. But I think Oklahoma at 8. I know they've struggled, but you're still winning at the end of the day. I think they needed to be higher. Ohio State should have been in there. I do see why Oregon is, because they did beat them, kind of like what Scott said, head to head. But that Alabama, I was just like, wow. But that's my thoughts.
Well, it's I think this is going to be the first year if everything plays out like what we've seen. That now the ACC is going to be left out, and so then the only conference that hasn't been left out is the SEC. So when or if that ever happens, we can only assume they'll immediately change the fucking college football playoff, or the South will succeed again, or a combination of both.
Yeah. I mean, Paul Feinbaum pretty much already said, this is SEC playoff already. He said it is, isn't it? Hey, Paul.
Well, let me ask you this: did you see that Gary Patterson is no longer the coach at TCU?
Yeah, I didn't notice that. Was that 20 years? It's just crazy.
Can you imagine? Then it's just like, hey, we just need you to just be done right now.
Yeah.
Really? Just that's it. So I wonder, is there something else going on? Is there some Les Miles,
That's a good point.
Stuff going on behind the scenes? Because to just be done and be like, I'm not going to even finish the year, because Ed Ogeron, who hasn't been the head coach at LSU for that long, however, did win a national title. Yes, less than 2 years ago. Says, yeah, I'm going to finish the year. Okay. But then Gary Patterson, we're not going the direction that we wanted to. Now, there's the other argument. for some of these what we'll call smaller programs and mid majors, they were playing in the Mountain West, and then the Big 12 keeps on having, everyone leave, which will can only continue. You watch, and then they said, well, hey, we'll go ahead and join the Big 12 because we don't have enough teams from Texas playing in the Big 12. So, but they haven't been what they were before they joined the Big 12. I've seen this time and time again that some of these smaller schools then join one of the big boy conferences, and then we find out, well, it's a little bit tougher. And TCU looked really good, and they won a Rose Bowl with Andy Dalton, who has no soul, and you know why. But beyond that, it has been tough sledding, and and right now they're in the second to last place. Thank you, Kansas, in the Big 12, and you've kind of seen this with Utah as well in the Pac-12. Yes, they've been a little bit better. I mean, Utah actually right now, as I say that, they're leading the Pac-12 South. We all know the Pac-12 garbage. No, I'm just kidding. We're kidding Pac-12 listeners out there, but they still don't have that same level of dominance they did before they joined the Pac-12. So maybe Utah's kind of gone and made a better transition, but you really do wonder when Cincinnati joins the Big 12, will you have that same level of dominance? I don't think so. I mean, I can sure as hell tell you that Oklahoma and Texas aren't going to have the same level of dominance when they join the SEC, especially Texas. Your goal, Texas fans, is to go 500 or over 500. Good luck.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Hey, I'm going to go conspiracy because you brought it up real quick. Sean, how about this with coaches getting replaced? Gary Patterson, usually pretty good DC, right? How about Gary Patterson goes and joins Dan Mullen, replaces Todd Grantham at Florida? What do you think?
I mean, Gary Patterson has done a great defense in 20 years, doesn't seem like.
I thought he used to have a pretty good defense. I thought he had a pretty
like 20 years ago.
All right. I thought he had some a couple of years back. He used to say Big 12, TCU, maybe for the Big 12. I don't know. Just throwing a name out there. I hope they keep Dan Mullen and Grantham for years, man. We can just kick the shit out of them every year. It's great, but it might not happen.
Do you have any thoughts, Sean, on Gary Patterson, or any other items you'd like to hit on?
Yeah.
No, I mean, I think that's it. I guess it is what it is. I mean, to me, it's kind of odd that you do let him go now, but I guess maybe it's just kind of the trend now is to let him go early and. I guess try to find like a replacement. I guess I don't really know that it makes a whole hell of a lot of sense, but
Hey, we will take your Zach Evans running back who flirted with Georgia. There's a whole other show. We'd probably take him in the transfer portal. Good.
Well, no, he committed to Georgia and we backed off.
Yeah, but yeah, we might take him again. So there's always second chances. All right. Anything else you want to get off your guys' chest? Also, go Braves. Huge win last night for Not to Talk Baseball. 1999 last time, 1995. So it's great for the state of Georgia. Gives us hope that we're not cursed.
Well, you're not cursed in baseball. You're just cursed in football.
Oh, thanks.
Exactly.
Thanks for the reminder.
I'm always here to lend a helping hand.
There you go. All right, make sure to like and subscribe. I know if you're still with us. And that's another episode of the Herschel Talkers with
presents the college football hour, or Trey. Fucking get it right.
College football hour too. All right, guys, it's a good one.
All right.
We're out.